I think it's time to move forward.
You should take pride in the whole area.
I just feel like this is our time.
First Alert Forward. Weeknights at 6:30.
I'm Corey Stark here in Fairgrounds Park in North St. Louis. This urban park is an example of the abundance of good and promise that our region has to offer, but it also represents the problems. First Alert 4 Forward begins with a reality check, and our Nathan Vickers asked St. Louisans, what do they think about their home?
When most people think about St. Louis, the first thing that comes to mind is probably the Arch. But the region is so much more than a landmark, with nearly 3 million people, dozens of municipalities, and even dozens of unique neighborhoods within the city.
I live in downtown St. Louis.
I live in South City.
I'm from Arnold, Missouri.
I spoke with people all over the St. Louis region, from St. Charles County to neighborhoods throughout the city, communities in St. Louis County and Jefferson County, and Illinois. 50 interviews in a dozen different locations.
North St. Louis,
East St. Louis,
West County. Nearly.
As journalists, we are here for you. So let's hear from some of our team about what Forward plans to do.
Yeah, Corey, like you, I was born here, I was raised here. This is the community where I grew up. I love St. Louis. I moved away. I have worked in other markets. I've seen other cities. This is not a half hour dedicated to dumping on the problems in St. Louis. We already know what those problems are. We've reported on them for years. This newscast is dedicated as a space to find solutions to the problems that we face every day in this region. Look, I've got teenage boys. I want to know how we can better compete with the Nashvilles, the Austins, the Bostons, all those it cities, all those cities that seem to get all that positive publicity around the country. And take a look at what it's going to.
Forward begins tonight at a place that shows St. Louis is moving forward. This is Westport Plaza in the Maryland Heights area. Decades ago, it was a hotspot to visit for shopping, dining, and entertainment. That faded for a time, but now it's coming back with new thinking. I'm Nathan Vickers for First Alert Forward. We're on a new mission to tell your stories, hear your concerns, and bring the St. Louis region together and forward. We want to see the progress here in every zip code, and what's helping and hurting to make that a reality greatly varies. As a once great shopping center comes down, a blank canvas emerges.
Nobody's ever done it, and it's a challenge. You know, I consider myself an artist.
Developer Michael Steinberg is sculpting something new at the former Chesterfield Mall, rebuilding a dense city center in its place with more than 1,000 residential units and commercial space, a concept Steinberg calls downtown Chesterfield. How do you sell St. Louis?
We're very affordable. We are one of the most affordable metros in the country, so you can still purchase a house here.
That affordability is a plus, especially in a difficult national market for housing and construction. What are things like right now for developers?
Things are tough. I think globally, on a national level, when you look, things are very difficult. We've seen in the last 3 years interest rates skyrocket. We saw construction costs go up by 20 or 30%.
At one point, these neighborhoods were some of the city's most prominent and populated. The Ville brought us some of the greatest entertainers of all time, Chuck Berry and Tina Turner. Nearby Jeff Vanderloo is home to Sportsman's Park, where the St. Louis Cardinals and St. Louis Browns played. Sportsman's eventually became Busch Stadium 1.
These are the areas where I rode my bike. These are the areas that I grew up in.
The organization's built dozens of new homes and apartments, and Burns says when they do, they lease quickly. But he believes it's easier to develop in some parts of the region than others.
I like the people in St. Louis. It's too hard.
What makes it hard to develop in the city? Let's talk about that.
Too many aldermen. You got too many people having, different views.
For more than 100 years, St. Louis was governed by 28 aldermen. In 2022, the board was reduced to 14 as a result of a public vote to change the city charter. Steinberg is among several developers who believe outdated zoning practices and a lack of consistency with incentives is part of what holds back the city.
I hope downtown comes back. I hope people move there. But you got to have cooperation. You got to have a vision.
Tonight on Forward, we are in the middle of winter in St. Louis. Tonight, we're talking about a different kind of winter, one that doesn't involve cold temperatures, but will create a chill when you better understand it. We're talking about our population. It's like a game of cards. We just keep reshuffling the deck over and over.
So this is the living room,
and it overlooks the acreage that we bought.
For Mary Ann Masterakis,
I have turkey and deer.
Chesterfield is home.
I see people that are really very committed to their area, very committed to their neighborhood, a sense of belonging.
But it's not where her story began in the St. Louis region. She was born and raised in South City, near Hampton Village.
We played in the street, and we played with all the neighbor kids. We walked to Hampton Village. We could walk to Ted Drew's, actually. Ted Drew's was there at that time.
But she and her husband of 50 years opted for county life to raise a family.
We decided
years growth in the St. Louis region has looked like progress.
We've been moving people around the region for 50 years.
Ness Sandoval says what looks like growth in one county is often just decline somewhere else. People leave the city, move to the county, or move again, but the region itself stays nearly the same size. And for decades, that shuffle was fueled by young families and steady birth rates.
Years will not be like the last 50 years. We won't have this buffer of births.
St. Charles County appears to be a success story. It's the fastest growing county in the St. Louis region, adding roughly 18,000 residents over the past 4 years. But a closer look at the numbers reveals a different trend. Data shows total population rising versus children under 10 declining. Fertility rates compared to 1990 down, and age distribution, a surge in 60-plus households.
More than one developer told us this week that they feel like something that holds back investment in the city is red tape and outdated zoning policies. What do you think about that?
I think they're right, and that is exactly why we're working on those things. We've got the ZOOP, the new zoning.
When you travel by air, oftentimes the first impression of a community is its airport. I'm born and raised in St. Louis, and all my life I've heard about the good old TWA days, where Lambert connected us with the world, and St. Louis was a destination in its own right. You fast forward to today, we're inside Terminal 1, and it's quieter than most airports you visit. And the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County are now working together to build a brand new 64-gate terminal, one that supporters say could reintroduce our region to the world, moving St. Louis forward. Flyers at Lambert say the airport makes a mixed first impression, easy to navigate but dated, and many say it doesn't fully tell St. Louis's story.
It needs to be redone. It needs to be updated for sure.
Others say Lambert feels smaller than major hubs, but see opportunity.
It helps grow the city and maybe get
especially
more
for
tourism.
businesses that rely on every arrival.
Lambert, definitely helps drive a lot of business to the hotel.
But Jamie Gaddy with the Renaissance Hotel says for many travelers, that first impression extends beyond the airport itself to the surrounding area.
I would say that it is definitely one of the largest obstacles that we are facing when it comes to travelers coming to St. Louis.
She says the lack of nearby businesses, walkability, and concerns about crime can make the area harder to sell, even as her hotel works great in-house programming. That's why plans for a new terminal and more international flights are being closely watched.
With an increasing number of flights and new airlines coming in, it's just more and more opportunity to bring revenue to the hotel.
She says getting Lambert right isn't just about air travel. It's about livelihoods tied to every arrival.
The more revenue we can get from the airport, the better. Again, every 15 people that come in on a flight is potentially employing someone for a day. So it's our staff's livelihood.
2025 put Lambert squarely in the headlines, with flights both coming and going. Alaska Airlines announcing new nonstop service to Portland. Delta adding flights to New York's JFK. At the same time, Southwest cuts several regional routes. But the biggest move, British Airways launching nonstop service between St. Louis and London Heathrow, set to take off this spring.
It's what we expected.
Many credit Rhonda Hamnabrigi for landing BA, turning Lambert around and setting off this new era.
The Lufthansa and the BA have been incredible wins for this region, and I think that's going to help start off 26 to be a good year and hopefully even better years to come.
A new season for City SC will start here soon, but that buzz takes a back seat because in 2028, we will be one of a few cities to host Olympic soccer matches. Very exciting stuff for our region. Here's who else is in on the game. Today, I had a chance to talk with St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer about how St. Louis is getting ready for these Olympic Games.
Is there going to be any heightened focus over the next few years of more development around the park to get ready for the Olympics?
There is. There are some plans in the works.
Imagine how we can propel that to really put that spotlight on how St. Louis is.
You might remember that we kind of broke from our regularly scheduled program tonight to cover this breaking development.